And secondly, I hope people will kind of keep an eye on our colleagues at the NRA. RedState.com, a very widely read blog yesterday, had a column by Eric Erickson on how the NRA actually tried to stop Senator Coburn's measure from succeeding. Happily, he withstood their efforts, and it is now law that the Reagan-era gun ban of guns in national parks has been overturned, but they didn't want it to go forward.
Well, what about the Wall Street Journal a month ago ran the headline that the NRA sided with the House that's passed the bill to restrict political speech about how congressmen have voted?
That had people's jaw dropping here in Washington, and they're still taking heat for it. And actually, we may bottle that up in the Senate. That's another thing folks can go to gunowners.org for. We've got another alert that deals with that.
I forget the name of that bill. What's it called?
Disclose. Yeah. It's an acronym for something about the light of day on disclosure in politics. It's just a way of harassing members of organizations, of an attempt to get the names.
They're now, the Federal Elections Commission, I had Ron Paul on a week and a half ago, they're now investigating Campaign for Liberty with a fine-tooth comb, telling them you're not allowed to send out emails on how people voted. I mean in America,
incredible.
we can't say how somebody voted?
What they're mad because he had a way of starting up an organization from his presidential drive, and Campaign for Liberty is going great guns, and that has them very upset. It's a new kid on the block, and I guess they'd like to strangle it in its crib, but that isn't going to happen.
Well, as you know, it's a key catalyst to get more patriot, pro-Constitution candidates in when every time they run, they win if they've got backing.
Absolutely. It's been a very successful year for that segment of the political spectrum. They've been doing an excellent job. The Tea Party is reflective of that work as well, and it's brought in additional people. And the fact that there are lots of new people involved tells you something. When in a very liberal district out in California, Representative Brad Sherman, when the people at a town hall meeting erupted in disbelief and catcalls when he said he wasn't aware of the thuggery of the new Black Panther Party during the elections up in Philadelphia in 2008, the people just shut the meeting down. And the guy said, well, I didn't see anything about it in the media that I read. Well, that's just the problem, pal. You're in your own dream world, and the rest of us aren't in that socialist cocoon.
Well, that's right. Less and less people watch it. CNN, MSNBC are in free fall, and I'm not exaggerating. I'm not one of the, even top, well, some ways you look at #1 internet show, top 15 conservatively at talk radio, but still that's not that, big for being on stations. But the issue is, I can look at our affiliated stations and just the stations that subscribe to Arbitron and our numbers. I have more listeners and viewers conservatively in my 3 hours than CNN's top-rated show. There's still the prestige of Larry King having 1 million viewers, but, I have close to 300,000 podcast listeners a day. Our affiliates now have over 400,000 listeners per every 15 minutes. That's the big, CUME number that the ad agencies have. Mm-hmm. And if I've got over 1 million people every day, more than 2 million total a week, because you have regulars that come in, but the stragglers, it's about 2 million a week and growing. Larry King Live is a joke. That's why he's retiring. It's over for these
Correct.
people. No one is listening to them.
Correct. Their numbers are in free fall. Every time I see something about that, it's clear that people are either not getting any information at all, but more likely they're going to all of these alternate sources that are available. I don't get a daily paper delivered to my house anymore. Why should I? You have so many ways of getting information, and the information that I'm looking for wouldn't have been in the daily paper.
Well, that brings me to my next to last question. Here are the two questions quickly, because I know you're busy. #1, Chicago. How do you analyze that ruling and the hoops that Chicago wants people to jump through? Do you think that'll be challenged? Quick statement on that, sir. And then finally, they're openly announcing they want to censor the web and talk radio now. Mm-hmm. That's just proving to people what thugs they are.
Exactly. Well, I think in case of Chicago, they're going to get away with this until they are challenged, and there's the possibility that if the second Heller case, which is now before the D.C. Court of Appeals, is successful, and if it's lawyered in the proper way so that it's a broad enough suit and a broad enough decision, it would not only bring down the D.C. licensing law, which I think is quite likely based on what Judge Scalia said in the first Heller decision, but it could then, if it's broad enough, instead of just a narrow thing like these first two Heller and McDonald decisions have been, it could bring down Chicago as well. I'm sorry, the second point that you wanted addressed?
No, just finally, the open announcements that they want to tax and control the internet.
I think that you're correct. That has shown people that if they can't win the argument, they're going to try to put a gag in our mouth. That's what McCain-Feingold was all about. That's what the Disclose Act is all about. And if they can come up with this, and they're already starting in a few markets to set up these Soviets. They call them stakeholder councils, but the word council is Soviet in Russian. And these Soviets would be designed to file a liberal complaint against any station that's carrying your show or any of the other talkers, and make it so that they have so much in a file at the time for renewal that they might not get their renewal. So stations, knowing that, would then start figuring out, well, what kind of pablum can I offset so I don't have the expense of fighting these fights?
And instead of stations buckling to that, they need to get more aggressive and defend the First Amendment. You cannot pacify these hooligans. I mean, this is real authoritarianism. These people aren't playing games.
Correct. That is exactly the right thing to do. We need to make sure that if they want to do thuggery at the polls, it'll be dealt with in a proper fashion. We got to be organized for that, and it goes back to the point you made earlier. We've got to double down and intensify our efforts, and we've all got to get involved as poll watchers and people that are right there on the scene. So when stuff starts to happen, you know, in Chicago, the Republican poll watcher is usually a Democrat anyway, so he's not going to pick up his cell phone and call the cops. We've got to be there to do those kinds of things.
Absolutely. And instead of having one video of people intimidating voters, we'll have hundreds because we know what's going on. Larry Pratt, thank you so much for spending time with us.
Been great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Always wonderful. Gunowners.org, folks. Go sign up there for free email alerts or become a member or become a lifetime member.